The Green Room at Lift Vancouver is brought to you by Cloud9 Cannabis Coaching. If you have suffered from anxiety, chronic pain, or depression, like I have, you know full well how debilitating it can be. Brady Sparrow, founder of Cloud9 Coaching, specializes in microdosing cannabis to help her clients lead more balanced lives. Whether you've been using cannabis your entire adult life or just now learning about this incredible plant, Brady's simple microdosing guide will help you find the perfect balance in just 1 month. Brady is about to host her first 30-day challenge called Find Your Cloud9 in 30 Dope Days. I'm doing it and you should too. So why not go over to cloud9coaching.com and join us. Be sure to use coupon code Jackie, JACQUI, for a special Green Room discount.
What's going on, everybody? It's Les from Cannabis Wiki. We are here at the 2.0 Lift&Co Cannabis Business Conference and Expo. Boom! Yeah, look who is at our desk right now. Okay? Get it straight.
Jodie Emery in the green room.
Yeah, that's right.
Ingrid,
Yeah.
the Peace and Love movement has come to where we welcome all at the Green Room in Lift, Vancouver. Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege.
Sweet, Jackie. Thank you.
No,
From one J to another.
Feel the love.
Yeah.
It's needed.
Right on.
Right? This is fantastic to be able to see that the industry has somebody so powerful for the legacy people in the
Small but
market.
mighty.
Yeah, well, I've got to speak up for a lot of people who don't have a voice and aren't being heard. So I get a lot of stories from a lot of people about how they're either enjoying some success, but more so about how they're being fired from their jobs or evicted for being a medical patient or all sorts of horrible things.
Losing
So
their children.
yeah, all sorts of awful stuff going on. So, I tend to want to point out all those flaws and point out where the problems are so we can fix them. And that tends to get me labeled as a complainer sometimes. Like, come on, Jodie, stop complaining. And it's like, yeah, but we didn't get to this point without complaining. I mean, we didn't get here without pointing out.
The challenge creates change.
Yeah, we can't say, oh, the car is broken, fix it. It's like, okay, but what part is broken? Like, you need to get in there and say that part and that part. So that's what I'm trying to do, actually. Something I'll just promote, something I'm launching soon.
Please do.
It's called Fair Cannabis, and it's at faircannabis.ca. So in the last few years, we've seen a lot of issues coming up, not only for dispensaries and for medical patients, but for retail stores and for commercial growers and craft growers and advertisers, and you name it, there's a problem. So we have groups like Cannabis Amnesty, which I'm part of, working on specific issues. You've got Canadians for Fair Access for Medical Marijuana. You've got all the different groups with Craft Cannabis and Hemp Farmers Alliance. And we need a way to bring all these groups together under an umbrella so that if you're interested in cannabis reform in any way, or if you have an issue, where can you find the people doing something about it? So Fair Cannabis will be an umbrella website where we already have like 18 issues with border, employment issues, driving laws, retail, head shops, you name it, there's an issue.
Right.
So if you go to that page, you'll find current litigation. Is there a class action lawsuit for veterans? Or here are some resources about how to lobby your local government for vapor lounges. Or here are some groups like CFAM or Cannabis Amnesty that you can join. Or here's a bill being presented or legislation being presented that you can support, or a petition you can sign. So a way to bring together all of the industry, the licensed producers, the dispensaries, the patients, the craft, the legacy. I mean, so many people are having problems with the government laws and regulations. So I think it's important to bring us all together, to work together where we have alignments, and then just forget where you don't agree. It doesn't matter. What we need to do is find the unity in the numbers. So that's an organization I want to invite people to join. But also lots of other plans with cannabis culture. 4 years ago we opened up in Ontario, and might be nice to open up again a few stores out there this coming spring. So we're looking at that, and vapor lounges and high school.
Ontario's got love for you guys.
Well, we pushed hard out there, and as bad as Ford is in many ways, you need a pushy politician to put through some crazy ideas. Like, here's a crazy idea. Tell me if you think it's crazy.
I don't.
One problem we have right now is that all this cannabis that exists is illegal still. And that was the cannabis that was supposed to be legal.
Yep.
And the government keeps saying, well, just get licensed. You can go and get a license now. Why don't you do it? Well, the fact is, it's very costly and difficult to get those licenses. So that's because it's all in this Health Canada, Ottawa bureaucracy. You've got a couple people sitting way out east having to go through these applications. The solution isn't hire more bureaucrats at Health Canada to process more paperwork for people who found millions of dollars to build a bunker. It's let these growers grow on their own. And the BC craft cannabis industry, there's no way all these growers are going to Health Canada. There's no way they're all going to be able to meet those requirements. But the provincial government certainly could regulate and license them, because the provincial government regulates and licenses production of alcohol. And alcohol and cannabis are the same jurisdiction. And when we went to the Supreme Court of Canada in 2017, I was there as cannabis culture, representing the whole cannabis industry, saying to the government, get rid of your alcohol monopolies on the border restrictions, get rid of the cannabis monopolies. But we lost. The beer and wine industry lost, we as cannabis people lost. But take a lemon, turn it into lemonade, or glass half full part of the glass half empty.
And then you infuse it.
Yeah, here's the good thing. The provincial governments can basically say, hey, we have the right to regulate food and alcohol provincially. The provinces are already in charge of wholesale and retail licensing and all that. Why can't they just go around to all the existing growers, check them out, make sure they're safe, give them a go ahead, and start selling provincially? Now that's going to take some courageous leadership, and that's why I mentioned Ford. You need some politician who's going to say, you know what, feds, you're messing this up for everybody. The cities are suffering, the patients, the consumers, the businesses. We're all suffering because Health Canada's federal bureaucracy is a chokehold. So I'm excited, as you can tell, to try and get these sort of ideas into the lobbying groups that are out there doing fantastic work. We have so many people lobbying and working hard. So if we just keep floating these ideas, the right people in the right position can make stuff happen. That's how we got rid of the lottery in Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So let's keep going. We didn't get this far without complaining, so we got to keep complaining apparently to make it better.
Challenge
So
to create change.
I'll give you a chance to breathe.
Thank you.
Right? Because I get on those same things, and that's what happens when
Yes, he
everywhere you turn, there's a problem,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I'm a solution-driven person, and when I have impossible scenarios, it just wears on me, right? So I appreciate your passion and
yeah.
the way that you
Are you
carry
a patient?
messages.
Are you
I do use cannabis medically. I got a federal license, well, right after I got arrested because I didn't want to violate bail by having cannabis. So I actually got it for my PTSD from being arrested, because
Right.
I was arrested
Imagine
twice,
that.
and the first time was cops in Montreal dressed up in normal clothes, and they came up to us and like, Jodie, can I get a photo with you? And I was like, sure. And so I'm waiting for them to pull out a camera, and they pull out handcuffs and the badge, and I'm like, you're joking. Is this a joke? Like, we're not joking.
What year was this?
That was in Montreal at the end of 2016. So
Yeah.
they let us go eventually, because that was after our big
guys were
stunt
going,
of opening.
you were going
We had
to
like a
Cannabis
10-month
Events.
period of opening up dispensaries. Like, cannabis culture is 25, almost 26 years old, but the dispensaries were only a brief period, 2016 to March 2017, and that's when I got arrested and charged and convicted. So I do use cannabis for depression, anxiety. I've gone through a lot in my life, lost my dad to suicide, been through a lot of abuse and bad things, but cannabis saved my life, and cannabis saved me from pharmaceutical drugs, antidepressants. It saved me from cocaine and alcohol, which I used when I was younger.
Me too.
And there's so many people who are benefiting from it. So I'm a cannabis evangelist because I believe in it, because it's saving lives. I don't need a study to tell me. I can
I don't
see.
know about evangelist. You're like H in hope.
So a lot of people, there's a lot of noise and a lot of stuff in the industry and a lot of stuff on social media, which is gross.
Personalities. We all need people to gossip about. You can't have a tabloid
Oh my
magazine
God.
without a personality
So
to talk about.
There's yucky crap all over social media.
About
and like
everybody,
and
though.
like you were saying, like cannabis saved my life as well. Where was I 2 years ago? Where was I 3 years ago? I was lost in pharmaceuticals. I was abusing drugs and alcohol. I have anxiety, depression, PTSD, and Crohn's.
So
I was
many.
abusing all my pharmaceuticals as well as anything I could find recreational. And I quit cold turkey with the help of cannabis.
See?
And I'm
People
living a
can do it.
pharma-free life thanks to cannabis.
Absolutely.
It's healing, it's curing, it's changed me. I
Oh,
look at the
man.
world differently, and I feel that every day when I wake up, I owe this community and my community, my family, my friends, I owe an apology, an explanation, and positive hope for the future thanks to cannabis.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's
So-
the best thing, like I like to say about medical cannabis, is the side effect isn't liver failure, it's enlightenment. You know, like
Yeah, for
suddenly
sure.
you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna start questioning this.
I
And
can't believe
what
the
about
things
like
I look at in the world that I never even, and it nothing to even do with cannabis, but like different charity organizations now I'm involved in.
Well, it's
and the
involved in
homeless thing, and like
everything.
all the. I am so since starting, like Bob Marley says, you smoke it and it reveals the plant reveals yourself to
Absolutely.
you.
No,
I
it's
guess
the healing of the nations too. It is the tree of life. Like I honestly believe this. Cannabis hemp, that's my Jodie's joint project, is a hemp cafe, and I still plan to do that, but cannabis hemp is a tree of life and can save the world. One of the first articles I edited for Cannabis Culture magazine was by an activist in Africa. and it's called daga there. And the police, they raid and they chop it down and it grows wild. But they also have the slums where people live and where they die when lamps fall over and fires go up, and it's just a big trash pile goes into people. So he was saying, this is insane. People are dying, and yet this daga, we could just take cannabis hemp, mush it up with water and lime and build bricks, and you've got a fireproof, flood-proof house that doesn't need insulation, that self-regulates temperature, that won't mold, and by the way, also absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, so it reverses climate change.
Wow.
So why the hell are we not using this plant? But again, about the excitement in the last while, there's big corporations and big real estate guys showing off their fancy multi-million-dollar hemp houses talking about the amazing fact that hemp does all these amazing things. So you see this stuff in like Levi's jeans creating more hemp materials. I mean, the revolution is happening.
Lego blocks are changing to
hemp cars. Like, I'm gonna live in a hemp house and drive a hemp car and wear hemp clothes and eat hemp food and have this is what we should all be doing.
Right now,
Have you had hemp heart burgers yet?
It's like this is the only way to save the planet from the climate change, in my honest opinion. Like we have all these issues. I was just getting more buildings built with hemp, and you can use hemp insulation too. And so that's the one way it's healing people, but also the nutritional benefits. I mean, a lot of the omega fatty acids that we need come from fish, and our fish sources are depleting, and there's like mercury and issues. So like hemp seed is super nutritious, and people who are starving can be nursed to health with it. So I don't know, I could go on forever, obviously, we all could. But I really believe cannabis is the tree of life, and that's why I am so adamant that the government has to stop with the stigma, stop with the lies, stop with the fear-mongering, stop scaring people away from cannabis, because you're scaring them away from the safer choice. You're making them use alcohol instead and pharmaceuticals instead because the government says marijuana is dangerous for me. That's unacceptable, and I know the reason government can't stop lying is because then people will say, well, what else are you lying about? And then you question authority, and that's the biggest threat to them. But they have a chance to make things right. I mean,
do the right thing.
But all around the world, people are waking up and rallying and protesting and realizing about self-autonomy, and that, one pill does not suit all, and that personalized medical care, and that, just basic going back to the earth, back to the roots, back to the mushrooms and the fungi and all the plant medicines. I mean, that's the healing of humanity, and that's the only way we're going to move forward. And it looks like it's happening. It looks like Prohibition failed the first time, so I'm sure it's going to keep failing no matter how hard they fight.
We'll get all this right.
Like together, like strength in numbers, really.
We're just touch base real quick on a personal level. A week ago, a cousin of mine, I lost to mental illness. He's a medical professional, but because of the stigma, couldn't use. He's a medical professional.
And people are dying like this all the time. And I'm so sorry because I lost. Suicide affects a lot of us. My father took his life from suicide. I mean, suicide rates go down by 10% where medical marijuana is available. We have an epidemic, especially among older males too, and younger people too. And there is a shame, and that's what's so upsetting about it. Is I've got people writing me saying, I can't use my medicine at work. And that's why we need lounges. That's why we need consumption spaces.
Preach.
Because if you cannot come together with your people and your kind, that's a charter rights violation. That takes away your right of freedom of association. And we're going to go to court with our amazing lawyers because they're the best, and we have to fight this way. Because when people come into our lounge at Cannabis Culture, they are out of the closet. They're finally, so for a lot of people, they can't smoke weed anywhere. And even if they could, they're still hiding with their friend in the garage at night, hoping nobody catches them. That is not just unfair, it's causing shame and trauma and generational harm. That even children know that their parents are keeping a secret. And what's the secret? That they're using medicine? God help us if that's what we have to hide. So lounges are essential, and these retail stores are important too. People need access to cannabis, but when you can't talk about it and you can't tell people where to use it or how to use it or how it helps, I mean, there's a federal prohibition on just promoting the benefits of cannabis. We got a Health Canada threat for having a cannabis accessories ad in the newspaper. I mean, they don't want people speaking the truth, and this goes back to the origins, but the people are waking up. It doesn't matter what the government does. Cannabis is here to stay. We overgrew the government, and they're going to keep weed whacking at it, but weeds keep growing. And they're like, get out of here, and we're like, too bad. Like, we're overgrew. But there's still people suffering in the meantime, and that sucks. But, unfortunately, the more people suffer, the more they get motivated to do something. Because when everybody thinks, oh, it's all good and legal, it's like, no, we need the right to come together with people of like mind. And that's why we plan on opening cannabis culture lounges and high score retro video game arcade lounges and Jodie's joint coffee shops, because bringing people together is our right to do that as a culture and a community. And it's a charter right violation to deny us the ability to do that. So, you know, help me grow if you want. We want to see lounges everywhere. We'd like to see local business owners have them, right?
So are we going to see Jodie's joint again? Or?
I hope so. So yeah, Jodie's joint coffee shop. It was a bit of a rough year last year. I mean, the worst year, and I've had 15 hellish years. So it's like, it was like the cherry. So that's why the mushroom microdosing, and I grew my own cannabis plants for the first time, and man, that was so therapeutic.
Wasn't it?
Just really important. Gardening is good for you. Gardening is mental health.
I didn't know I'd like gardening, and my mother said, you know, I mean, my story is 14 years old, ankylosing spondylitis, up and down the opioid crisis. My mother's Salvation Army, and she said, I mean, she was crying. I was going to Europe, and I couldn't take my medicine. She was crying, and then she said, what if I grew some for you? So isn't that crazy? And then I had no idea the therapeutic benefits of that.
Absolutely. And people need more of that because the mental health crisis that's going on right now, and the shame and the problems about growing, like that patients can't grow their own sometimes in their house because they're not allowed, and this constant shame and the stigma. The government talks a lot about mental health for people, and right now we have a lot of patients and people who have nowhere to go and no one to gather around and nowhere to learn. So that's something that we do need to come together on, is to get rid of the shame, and it means breaking a couple bylaws perhaps. You know, it means being bold, right? Right? But like from I'm a convict too. Like here I am, I'm a convict. I'm a big queen pin of pot, you know. So like, but you know, we have to keep being bold, and not everybody it has to do that. Like a lot of people can't afford the risk of being bold and bending the rules. But you know, if we all give up, then there's no hope. But if we have at least a few people still like holding on and keep holding the ground, then when we get reinforcements, you know, we can make progress again. But if we fall back and lose all, like we got so much more work to do. And I just feel that right now more than ever, we have the motivation, we have the inspiration.
Crazy.
We have all sorts of things that rhyme with "in." I'm sure we come up with. You don't want me to start freestyling here, because I will.
No, we do.
Can I make a statement? Can I make a statement? Because it needs to be. So we just did a boot camp 101 on advocacy from the master, right? I need to say this because a lot of us get into this. I mean, what I do is volunteer. And we get into this to make a difference in people's lives. And we often say, if we can just help one person, we will do it 1,000,000 times. And you help thousands. You just helped someone here tonight. This is real life that we're doing.
Well, and
here.
you never know the inspiration you'll get. And that's like one of the weirdest things out there is that, you know, I used to tell people, they go, what can I do to be an activist? There's no one around. I have nobody here. There's nothing going on. I said, make a sign that says, you know, safer choice, or cannabis needs to be legal, or marijuana is medicine, or whatever you, and go with like one other person and stand on a street corner and hold up that sign. And you might not get a politician calling you saying, come draft the laws.
Right.
But what you will get is someone driving by who goes, I'm gonna Google that. And then they're gonna learn something. And so it's like these weird ripple effects where you don't even know how many ripples you have. And it's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever had is people coming up and saying, look, we did all this stuff because I went to your lounge once. You know, like the first cannabis cafe in LA that sold, and they got our picture on the wall because we inspired them. So like, you never know when you'll affect somebody and then who they might impact. Because just one spokesperson, like the Miss Canada, was there Miss Universe with the Miss Universe with the outfit, right? Like that, just the news story going out there makes a lot of other chickies go, you know what, me too. I'm gonna get me a green dress and like do that thing. And it's like, yes, that's so awesome. And you're right. So even if you feel like nobody's listening and nobody hears me and my voice doesn't matter, it does, because you can't reach that critical mass. And like, that's why when someone like me gets the chance to speak, I'm just saying what so many other people have said to me. Like, it's like, and if you ever get the opportunity to speak on behalf of those who have no voice. And that's why a lot of the work I want to do is about prisons and about all the reparations for the victims of prohibition. Like, I've been to US federal prisons and Canadian prisons, and that was probably the worst thing. But first we'll finish with the cannabis stuff, get that fixed up, and then we'll go fix all the other horrors of the criminal justice system and mass incarceration and for-profit prisons and the racism behind the RCMP and all of it. There's so much to do. But for now, I'm feeling excited because, you know, it's 2020 and it's going to be 420, 2020. Is that right?
Yes,
We
yes
have
it
all
is.
sorts of plans, and we got 420 Vancouver
And where
coming
will you
up
be
and lots.
that day?
I just turned 35 myself.
I see that.
So I'm like, yeah, halfway to 70, yeah. So Capricorn, I'm like a goat fish, so I climb out and swim oceans.
It's the year of
you
the
know?
Capricorn.
I'm gonna say this again, a little tiny personal story, but so your birthday was like a week ago,
Yeah.
and someone who follows me from Hamilton and where I live, she follows me. She's a friend and follow you. I believe you're the godmother to her son.
Oh,
Blake.
yes, this is my co-accused.
So she messages me and love what you're doing for the community.
amazing.
I love what
Brittany's
you're doing in the
amazing.
industry. You're doing all this great stuff. But I see her profile pictures with Jodie, and Jodie and I have not always been good friends.
Well, and I don't
But
even
we
know
don't
this because
even
it's
know each
Twitter.
other, right? 'Cause it's
Goddamn
Twitter.
internet.
So then I'm like, I'm not even responding to this lady. I'm not responding to her. Sure, her bestie's Jodie. So then the lady reaches out again. She sends me this massive, beautiful, you're inspiring, you're helping our community, you're such a wonderful. So I message her, I'm like, thank you, and thank you very much. I see your best friends with Jodie.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know what? She goes, I think you guys got it wrong. Something's messed up here. She's like, you're both doing the same things differently, but the same thing.
Yeah,
And
and
it
people
takes a
see different
village.
sides of things.
Right.
And you know, it's weird. Someone just wrote me and said, I met you in an event and you were really short with me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really sorry, but
I might have to pee.
I might have been like, I was like, so, but like, it's weird how these one interactions,
Yeah.
and I'm always trying to be sweet and nice, but
It's
Twitter's hard. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this cannabis industry is really exploding and people need shit to talk about.
Right.
And they need personalities. And I
That's
guess
fine.
I've been
I'll be-
vocal. And
Right.
like,
I'll be the villain
if you're
with
out
fake
there,
boobs.
right, if you put yourself out there, people will give you grief. But you can't let that deter you, and it just exposes who the real bullies are. And you know, trying to get past stuff. Like, you know, you have falling outs with friends. I mean, if we all do. We all fight and have falling outs with friends, family members. If you had to sit down with everyone you knew and said, all right, do we have any disagreements on anything? Well, I'm done.
Well,
you
I
know?
did that. That was my disclaimer yesterday.
Well,
And
but it's tough. It's tough because we do have disagreements, and like I can think of many friends I have that we just don't talk much anymore. But at the same time, we are in the same mission community. We're still aiming for the same thing. And then when I see two friends that I know who have a falling out, and I'm like, oh shit, I like both you guys.
No.
Right.
I don't know what your beef is, but damn, I feel
We need to
torn.
talk.
And this is why I feel a lot of people feel about, like with me and a few former friends that have fallen out. You know, it's like, but it's maybe easier to pick on me, or I don't know what it is. But I don't really care anymore because the real world is like, this is the real. I want to deal with what's in front of my face,
Right.
and like you
Looking
mentioned,
forward
Brittany
to
and
the future.
babies and family, like real people and on the ground, because the internet's very valuable, but it also brings out some of our worst natures, and it can be really triggering. Like for me, the last couple years, yeah, if you only knew of me in the last couple years, you'd think I'm just very angry and upset and traumatized and hurt and a lot of bad things. But if you knew me in I've been doing this for 15 plus years.
That's it.
And before that, when I'm like running for office, I never cried. I went to visit prison all the time in the US. I spoke Parliament in Washington. I've been doing stuff, and I was always optimistic. And so
You got big shoulders,
when I
lady.
when I went to the Supreme Court of Canada, it was the funniest thing. There was a little mingle with lawyers and media beforehand because it was a big case about constitutional law. And one reporter comes up to me, and we're talking for a bit, and he goes, "So, I follow you on Twitter, and like you're not." I don't see this side of you. Like everybody thinks you're mad and angry all the time,
Yeah.
but they could just see this side of you. I'm like,
Well,
oh,
not a
shit.
jerk,
Do I
you're
just
in here.
right?
But-
I wish I could just do videos,
but
right?
passion-
yeah, I'm passion can
Passion
come
and
across-
frustration
Yeah.
comes across as anger and irritability,
Yeah.
and we're doing a good job at recognizing that there's a global health, opioid crisis, mental health issue, but we haven't yet got to actually being supportive. So when it happens in real life, people run.
We're supporting one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for coming on the
It
green
means a
room.
lot. It really does. I appreciate
So
it, and I
tell the
hope that-
people where you can be found.
Oh, I'm
Coming
Jodie Emery on most things. So
case you didn't know.
Twitter is like where I'm at all the time. I tweet all the time. Twitter.com/Jodie Emery. That's JODIE. I'm also Instagram under the same name, and Facebook you can find me in the same name. I just returned to Facebook. I spent a few years kind of you know. But like I said about some things, like I don't have to like Facebook just because I use it. Like
Right.
use a tool.
Right, yeah.
Use a tool. It's
Yeah.
there for using. I'm gonna take advantage of that and, you know, spread the knowledge and preach the good word like the evangelist can evangelist. That's what I am. So yeah, join the Tree of Life Church because
Well,
we're
we-
here to welcome everybody.
We totally appreciate you stopping
Thank
by
you.
and taking
Means
the
a
time.
lot. Thank you. I appreciate
Jodie
it.
Emery, Gerald Major, my favorite, Jackie Childs. Guys, you know where Cannabis Talk is always fresh and a little bit sticky. Keep it locked to Cannabis Wiki, the green room.
Thanks, guys.